Greetings, everybody, on this beautiful, windy, overcast Sunday in Cape Town, South Africa. It's me again, Marcel Williams, coming to give you another talk as promised before. I hope you're doing all well and that you've stayed safe from infection and any other mishaps. And I trust that you had a wonderful week thus far. And what I want to speak to you about today is about that deception thing. But before I start, let me just encourage us all to be careful and be safe from infection. There seems to be a relaxation in terms of social distancing, masks, and sanitation. And we all need to guard against a second wave that can hit us here in South Africa as in other countries. One of the things that people should be concerned about is that President Cyril Ramaphosa mustn't get to the point where he's forced to announce, a higher level of the restrictions. So let us all do our part and stay safe going forward. Just as an example, I was at the garage today, putting petrol into my car, and I noticed that people were paying with their cards, but the petrol attendants were handling the cards, etc. But after each client or customer, they didn't sanitize. They handled cards, and I saw my card being handled, and I had to make sure when I got home that I, had it swiped and wiped and all that, because it was handled by several people. Some people were handing their cards from the back of the car, from passengers, handling the card, and there were children in the car who are basically, many of them can be carriers. So I saw all the dangers, the possible dangers that we all face daily. But as promised, I mentioned before, we were talking about deception, spiritual deception, and I've taken my scriptures from Matthew 24 and 2 Thessalonians 2, where it talks about deception, warns against deception. And as I indicated, there's spiritual deception in the world today. Deception, lies, trickery. That is the whole thing. And I did mention that, for instance, even in the secular world, there's deception, lies. And I gave the example of the media, for instance, and as I mentioned, one example was CNN. That has an agenda of pushed by certain groupings behind the scenes, that's basically trickery, lies, that's made to look true. We all are aware of the George Floyd incident in the United States of America, where it caused uproar, protests, and so on, and rightly so. It is injustice and wickedness to do what happened, but the organization that was formed thereafter, Black Lives Matter, it would seem that many of us would want to support such a organization, but I mentioned in the last talk that we need to be careful for how some of these organizations that start off with a good cause, noble aspirations, but are hijacked by groupings that have got another agenda. I just want to read you something that is like the what does Black Lives Matter organization stand for? They say, for instance, we make space for transgender siblings. We do the work to dismantle cisgender, which means biological sex, and uplift transgender black folk, especially transgender black women, which continue to be impacted by transgender and antagonistic violence. Further, they also say, I won't read everything, I'm just taking some of the things they stand for. We are queer affirming. We gather to free ourselves from the tight grip of the belief that all are heterosexual. We gather to put an end to the notion, that everybody needs to be heterosexual. And I'll leave out some more. Just look at this one. This is an organization designed by Satan. This is a comment made by somebody. To use the suffering of some people as the means to destroy their lives, to destroy morality, conscience, family, and the church. So you'll see here from the manifesto of the Black Lives Matter organization that it is not about race as such. It metamorphosed into something about transgender, because the points here that I've just mentioned to you are nothing to do with the violence, the killing of black individuals in America by the police, but it is all about transgender. So it's in my view that's an organization that has been hijacked. And then if you want to find out more, you could research, and you'll find out that this organization is funded by some people claim the Democrats in the United States of America, which is a political party. So behind the scenes, there's some funny groupings that are going on, and I did mention Antifa, which some would claim is an idea, but it's actually an organization, and it stands for a lot of negative things in the world. But be that as it may, I did mention that I want to talk about the United States election, which is very topical because it is basically in a week's time. Just a few more days to go, then it's the 3rd of November where the election is taking place. And at the present time, already a lot of Americans have cast their vote. For those of us that don't know, America has two major parties, the Democrats and the Republicans. Now, the Democrats, they are basically a liberal organization or party. They have a socialist agenda. They're basically pro-choice, which means they are for abortion. They are pro-same-sex marriage. They're basically anti-Christian and thereby anti-church. Whereas the Republicans are conservative. They're pro-life, which means that they're anti-abortion. They don't stand for abortion. They're pro-conservative family values, and thereby they're pro-Christian and pro-church. And you'll find that the Democrats and mostly hate President Donald Trump. Not just dislike, but hate. They mock and deride him at every opportunity, especially from news agencies like CNN. In 2015 or 2016, thereabouts, one of our trips to America, we usually go to the hotel and we book in. The first thing we do when we get to our room is to, check out the facility, what's in the room. I usually put the TV on. And this one time in 2015 or 2016, I put on the TV just to see the channels and what's there. And it was the very time when Donald Trump was announcing his desire to run for presidency of the United States of America. And the way the people derided him and mocked him, and the idea was it's the most outlandish, unworldly concept or idea that such a person like Donald Trump would stand for presidency, that it actually puzzled me. Already there I picked up there's an obsession, was an unnatural hatred for the man. And, perhaps at another occasion I'll talk about, hatred. What are the sources of hatred? Why is there hatred generally in the world for certain things and certain people? But for now, just watch your news. The people can hate Donald Trump, and they can do their voting and whatever, but you will see that Donald Trump will be elected as United States President for yet another term of office. I say this because Donald Trump, by all indications, is somebody that I think God is using to do a certain thing in the world. And, when God has got his hand in a matter, people can do what they want to do, but, God's will prevail. So perhaps I'll talk about it at another time. But just watch, he will win the election. In a couple weeks' time, you'll see he'll be inaugurated yet again. And, it will be interesting to see how the Democrats are going to deal with that. But for next time, stay well, stay blessed, and keep safe.